All right, we made it to shame and social anxiety. I was thinking through how I wanted to start this, and I mean, really, there's probably only one true place to start a monthly topic like this, which is a reminder or a note on your own safety, security, trust, and support. I kind of gave a shout out to this at the beginning of cold exposure. Um, Cold exposure being probably the most physically dangerous monthly theme we had done so far. This is probably the most emotionally dangerous theme we have done so far. So I would encourage people to stay um, tuned in, kind of just how you're feeling, your level of, I guess, arousal in your body, um, knowing that you can pass on sharing if that is helpful for you, that you can, yeah, decline to comment. You can avoid doing some of the activities. I think the only thing I would say here is something I've noticed on retreats or other experiences that we've done, um, or even in stuff like breath work, where one of the ways you can mess with this a little bit is to stop halfway through. Like if something gets really intense, an example I have here is breath work, where, you know, if you start breath work and then like halfway through you're like, oh, I feel like strange, I feel tingly, I'm just going to stop. The idea is like you were dislodging something to be released, and now it's kind of just stuck because you stopped the process that really helps it. That's not to say I want you to push past the point of safety and security, but I think if you can, showing up for the full, as much of this process as you can is super helpful. And that's both stuff you do on your own. That's also just showing up to these, even if you just come and say, yeah, everything fucking sucks, I feel like shit. I'm probably going to have a few of those weeks. I mean, I feel like my week right now is almost like that. Um, but helpful to show up in that state than not show up at all and keep things just stuck. Um, so yeah, a word on just safety and support. And again, if you feel like you want an army alongside you, you can either message the dojo group, you can message any of us, you can message me. Um, Happy to provide support. Um, yeah. So with that said, uh, I think we're going to 180 and basically jump right in. I think it can be more powerful as we begin a kind of shame and social anxiety month to potentially remember what those feelings are like. So I have a little activity right now for uh, I will offer it to everyone. um, this was actually introduced to me by John on one of the first retreats we ran together, and I liked it so much because of the almost difficult simplicity of it, which is, can everyone take a look around you right now and find a very basic item that is within arm's reach? It literally does not matter what it is. It might be a sweater. I'm probably going to use my mate cup. Like, just grab a singular item. So, anyways, again, a kind of feeling. This is basically almost a meditation, really. It's really just, let's do this and see and try to notice how you feel when you do this. So what we're going to do is everyone's going to go around just like we did with sharing, and I will put a timer on, and I'll put like my hand up when your time is done, but you will have 2 minutes, only 2 minutes, where you have to talk about your item as if you are the foremost world expert on whatever this thing is. That's it. You just got to fill the time. Just try not to stop talking. Um, and again, like there's an argument where, you should be able to do this it's a fairly straightforward task. Talk about a spoon for 2 minutes or talk about a cup for 2 minutes. But yeah, I would invite you, as we try to do this, to just see how your body feels going about this. I would like to extend the invitation. If anyone wants to go first and kick us off, they can. I think if no one no one volunteers. I can do it, but do we have anyone feeling? Yeah, there we go, Darius. All right. Um, yeah, so once you start talking, I will start the timer. I'll raise my hand once the 2 minutes is up.
Okay, so
Oh, what's your item?
this is
Oh,
a 9-volt alkaline battery. A 9-volt alkaline battery is used in a lot of electronics. It's a less common format, used mostly in smoke detectors. And it is a little bit different in the voltage, and that the way that the battery cells are formed are constructed a little bit differently, using different types of materials so that the alkalinity levels of the internals of the battery are able to hold a certain type of charge that works for a very specific voltage. And they have two receptacles on the bottom, sometimes known as the male and female ports. And in this case, they are different shapes for some reason. One is an octagon, another one is a circle. And I like the octagon more for, I don't know why, but it appeals to me more. Batteries also have an expiration date. It looks like this one expires in 2025. So it still has a good 3 years. A big part of this has to do with the cells inside of the battery and whether the material is able to hold a charge over a certain period of time. Eventually the material changes, and so that has a lot to do with the expiration date. I guess as it holds a charge, I think the material eventually loses its potency. It's like electromagnetic capacity, I guess. And then it expires, and then it goes to the trash heap where it pollutes the ocean, and that's terrible. But that's the batteries, yeah. What else can I say about this thing, which I am a foremost world expert on?
you're good on time, dude.
Good.
Nailed
Okay.
it. Yeah. Yeah. Damn. Learned more about 9-volt batteries than I ever had in my life. Awesome. We can save both your own commentary of how you feel, and if anyone has commentary on anyone else's, we'll save that for once everyone is gone. For being the bold and brave steward of the activity, Darius, you can volunteer someone to go next.
Jessica.
And maybe a quick note from Darius's comment there. None of this has to be factual, to be clear. This is basically a public speaking exercise, not an accurate historical scientific fact exercise. So yeah, you can completely wing this stuff. It's more the manner of how you convey it and keep going. So Jessica, again, you can start by introducing your thing, and I'll start the timer once you start talking.
So what I have here is a beautiful red belt. It's a linen belt, actually. It's used for dresses mainly, probably for red dresses the most, because it looks just really nice to have like a belt like around your waist. It really makes look dresses like really tailored to yourself. And yeah, I really like the material of that, because linen has the ability to keep you cool and warm at the same time. It's a really cool material. If you think about it, it's very natural. You don't really sweat with linen, and it also really touches beautiful. So when you really touch linen, you always have the feeling of it's soft and it's also sturdy at the same time. It's a really cool thing to touch, actually, and that's the reason why I really love linen clothing in general, because it's sturdy and it feels so soft to the skin. Yeah, it's also very cheap produced, actually, like in when you compare it like with cotton, for example. Cotton needs a lot of water, and linen is like really practically it grows everywhere, but it's not like too hot or like too cold. So it's like great for like this European and probably also US, Russia, I guess, China. It grows in probably many places, and it really it's very environmental friendly, I guess. And so, yeah, I really favor linen of all clothing materials a lot. And this is why I choose this beautiful belt. Holy shit, I really love it. And one really cool thing, what you can do with such a sturdy material is you can use it actually like for things you normally use ropes for. So I actually used that for some practices in yoga, where I just needed to like pull something, legs or something up to me. So I just used this belt for that because it's just so sturdy. So yeah, that's like, again, I really honor this material and I like it a lot. So if you have the pleasure to ever enjoy linen clothing, go for it.
Nice. Nice. Round of applause on that one. Damn. I'm gonna make a linen battery. These are wonder materials. Fantastic. Jessica, you can nominate next.
Jana. Oh, so sorry.
This is awful, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so my product, my object is my mobile phone. Now, so much can be said about mobile phones. So what theme do I pick? Do you remember the times where mobile phones, I remember I was around 13, 14, when I got it for the first time, it was such a rare and really honored thing. You know, it was usually your birthday or your Christmas when you would get one. And quite often it would be a symbol of a specific standing in the society. You know, there were those who had and those who had not. And it really drove a line amongst your friends who were already playing their Snakes or Nokia when you were still reading text from that one line that was running across your screen. When you look at it now, every single one of us has it. You know, there's statistics and report that people, for example, in Africa, quite often the conditions, their living conditions are, compared to the Western world, really quite substandard. But a lot of companies can still target people in Africa because everyone has a mobile phone. The ubiquity of the product has connected the world in a way that we could not imagine 20 years ago. Communication, the way we have started to relate to each other, suddenly the rise in global citizenship journalism, everyone now is a journalist, which has created incredible social movements and gave power to people that normally would not be able to express themselves or be able to show the conditions they live in or show the kind of crime that was happening within their area. With the coming of phone, this is now possible where, you know, as we've seen. Oh, am I done? Yeah.
Nailed it. Nailed it.
Speak
Awesome.
Speak slowly, I advise.
Yeah, 2 minutes is sneaky because it's like 2 minutes, whatever.
Oh my gosh, like my heart is beating so fast.
Awesome. You can volunteer next.
I will go for Nick.
Okay, so my object is this DSTV remote over here. So DSTV, I'm pretty sure is a South African thing exclusively. It's kind of like the South African Netflix, but it's like way older than Netflix. And yeah, if you grew up in South Africa, DSTV was a big part of your life. And it's actually way better than Netflix in a lot of ways. Probably the defining feature is box office. That's the box office button up there. This is like an old remote, so you can't see. But it's basically access to the latest movies that are often still in cinema. So you don't actually have to go to the cinema if you got DSTV. So that's pretty incredible. You do have to pay a little fee for those movies, like the really new ones. But you know, you also have to do that if you go to the cinema. So yeah, we got box office. We got DSTV catch up, which is, so that's more like Netflix. The general DSTV is actually like, I think you guys call it cable, where it's like live TV. That's normal DSTV, but like that's not really the direction that these things are going these days. So it's more so DSTV catch up, where they literally have like thousands of movies and series and pretty much everything that's on Netflix except for the Netflix exclusives. But they've got like HBO, you know, so pretty much everything on DSTV. There's also the ability here to pause and rewind and fast forward live TV and live cable. So that was like more of a feature when like catch up and Netflix were a thing, you know, that you could actually like pause and rewind the sports game. Yeah, that was huge. But yeah, like, you know, DSTV is about so much more than just these features. Like, it's really about the heart and soul, you know, DSTV, bro. Like, everyone knows it. It's like you grew up on it. And yeah, it'll always have a place very close to my heart. And I think that's the same for most South Africans. So,
Boom.
yeah, bad luck for you guys.
Love it. Love it. I need me some DSTV. Damn. Okay. All right, dude. Take a pick.
Chloe.
Ooh, okay. Well, I picked the thing that was already in my hand, as you probably noticed, which is actually, you may not know what it is. It's a crochet needle. Believe it or not. Isn't that fun? I do not crochet at all, but turns out crochet needles are super useful for a lot of things that are not crochet related. So the first thing I know about these little guys is they have a bunch of different sizes. Like, so they have really, really thin, fine ones if you're crocheting like with thread, I guess. And then they have super fat ones if you're doing like wool stuff. A fun note about crochet, I've never crocheted with a crochet needle, but I have crocheted with my hands and not a needle. So I feel like my knowledge is a little backwards on this thing. But yeah, they have different sizes. And basically, several years ago when I changed my hairstyle and got dreads for the first time, I was like Googling how to take care of them. And the biggest story was use a crochet needle. So went to a what's it called? A store for like crafts and stuff. I went to find old lady crochet needles and here we are now. So I've learned that the size matters a lot, because if it's too thin, like too fine, it's only good for threading. If you use it for anything else, it'll break. But if you get a fat one, it's not very good for thin things. And well, it's not going to be very useful. It's going to get in the way. It's kind of cumbersome. So you have to find like just the right size of crochet needle for what you're doing. And I found just the right size for hair, which apparently is size number 1. They go by numbers, by the way. I don't know how they work. I believe that it's like decimal point numbers for really little ones and then bigger numbers. Not only that, crochet needles are good for like they're like a household item. Like, they're an important tool, okay? I've used them from stuff from like, it's a little gross, but cleaning the drain out, like hair and stuff. This is your best friend. This is better than anything else, okay? Playing with the cat, putting string on it, floating things around, conducting music. Like, these things are good for everything. If you don't have one in your home, it's like more useful than a screwdriver, okay? So I just want to advocate for crochet needles. Whew. Was that it?
Yeah, there you go. More useful than a screwdriver. Bold claims. Bold claims. Awesome. All right.
Cool.
You can pass
Woo,
on.
all right. Camille, I think you're up.
Oh, I hate being the last one. Blah. So I have here a spoon, a rainbow kind of spoon, and it's a dessert spoon that we can eat, not only dessert, but mix your tea or your coffee or something like this. And what I like about it is because, yeah, it's obvious, it's this prisma rainbow situation. And you can see maybe your reflection on it. Yeah, it comes in a set, and it was something that I was designing for a long time. And none of my friends or people that I show like this spoon. They think it's it's not fitting with anything. But I don't know, it brings me happiness. I think it's cute and useful for, yeah, not only the function of it, but what brings to you. So whenever I try to buy an object, I keep that in mind, something that I like for not only the function, but what it represents. And coming back from spoon, it's a small size, and I have a larger one as well. And what else can I say about the spoon? Neo could help me. There is a spoon here, and non-stop talking about the spoon. The most predominant color is purple, but the reflection is greenish. And what else? I don't know what to tell about the spoon. There's a brand here, this Ernesto, and maybe a serial number. I never noticed. So now that I have to talk about it, I'm paying more attention to my spoon. And I think I could use a more fun object to do, but it was the first thing that caught my attention. And I'm done.
Nailed it. I love it. The spoon was the first, my first pass at it too. It's a challenge. They're all challenging. What am I supposed to say about a spoon? That was awesome. Love it. All right, let me finish this so I don't spill it while I talk about it. Okay. Yeah, I will do my part, wrap mine up as well. All right. This is called a mate. It's a cup for holding yerba mate. Down here, they call it cherba. This thing has a freaking crazy origin story. So, I mean, Argentina is filled with, it's a lot of farmland. They have a big like beef cattle industry down here. And about 4 centuries ago, first people who came down here started noticing that the cows were just like running around a lot. Like if you've ever seen, cows are fucking huge, man. If you've ever seen them run around, it's like a sight. And some of the farmers were trying to figure out like how on earth these fucking cows were just running around. And they started noticing that they would go to the edge of the tree line, right? And they would eat this like bush, this like shrub, and then they just start freaking running around. So, you know, the farmers were like, there's definitely something going on with this shrub, this tree. And so they started eating it, tasted like shit, didn't really work. But one day the kids were running around, or so the story goes, and they knocked over the kind of shrub collection that they had into the pot of water, and someone tried drinking that, and they realized like, oh, you got to boil this thing. It's like a tea. And so since then, they've been remixing the actual mates that you can use for it. Started off with like coconuts or gourds or just like hollowed out strips of wood. They got a little fancier. They started using, this is kind of a homage to the origin of it. They started using like cow's feet. Like you could wrap a cow's foot in it, put sherba inside of it. That's an adventure. Some now just use leather. You can get metal ones, you can get wooden ones, you can get ones built out of coconut, all to just make a very nice presentation for your mate when you're sitting in the park or hanging at a restaurant. Just acknowledging that the time is done there. Oh, ridiculous. All right. First of all, I mean, shout out everyone for actually doing that. Big shout outs. That was awesome. Yeah. So the reason I wanted us to do that is, I mean, I'm interested to hear from almost everyone, like what that experience was like for you. Because there's one argument where it's like, I mean, yeah, it can be kind of difficult to freestyle something for a little bit of time, but I mean, it should be more of a creative challenge than it is like a presenting challenge. And if it was a presenting challenge, like, why was it so hard? Because I mean, yeah, I think the first time I did this activity was several years ago, and it has gotten a little better, but it's still like, oh, so I mean, let's just start with opening the floor. Like, anyone have comments on either their own experience or what they saw in someone else doing it? Yeah, open floor space here. Yeah, Nick.
Yeah, so when you started to announce that this was the exercise we're going to do, and I've also done this one before, I was like, oh no, like this fucking thing. And I noticed my heart start to beat actually similarly to before a combo ceremony, which is like the frog venom that they put on you. And the way that it cleanses you is, it's like the fire. So you literally get poisoned and you feel your heart start beating, and then it like pushes it out, and then you purge. And yeah, it felt like that to me. And it felt like the task while I was waiting for everyone else to go was like, can you just like sit in the fire, like just let your heart beat, and don't get like stuck in stories. Don't actually try and think about all the different things you can say about this remote, because you're just gonna get lost in stories about how like you're not gonna be able to say like enough things about it. So it's really like about being present in that fire. But it's interesting, yeah, my heart was like really beating and I was like, what's going on? Yeah, I think that used to happen to me actually like at the beginning, like when I first started joining these calls with you guys, like before I had to speak. I think I'll get a similar kind of feeling. Yeah, another interesting thing was that everyone else to me looked like pretty chilled, and it was pretty interesting how people would like finish and they'd be like, oh, like I'm done, and I'll be like, you look so like it looked cool. It didn't look like a problem until you finish. You're like so yeah, I think that's all I'll say for now. Oh wait, one more thing. Yeah, sorry. Actually, like a hugely important thing was also like the voices in my head. I'm not gonna like give voice to them all now, but yeah, just lots of voices like you're too this, you're being too serious, you're being too boring, like you're being weird, like just all of these voices coming up. And yeah, again, I feel like the challenge is not to like get lost in those and just like stay with what you're saying and continuously come back. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few big ones in there. Yeah, I'll save some comments. Yeah, anyone else want to share about either hearing other people do it or your own experience of having a talk? Yeah, Darius.
Yeah. I guess starting from like myself, I definitely noticed similarly, it's just thinking I'm like revisiting it and feeling it in my body. But there was like this initial panic almost, like that idea, like as soon as I knew that I had to like present, my body was like, no. It was an automatic no. And then there was like a brief moment of like trying to come back to it, like it's okay. It's fine. And then that I felt that much more in myself. I couldn't see it in others quite as much, but I definitely think, or I got a sense that we all maybe handled it in our own way. One thing I noticed as I was going through the exercise of talking about it, there was definitely points where I started getting nervous because I knew that my thread of thought was like coming to an end. I was like, I know I can only say so much about like the expiration date. And so while I'm like talking about it, there's like a background noise, like think of something else, think of something else, think of something else. And that can make it a little bit jarring. So I think being able to like, per like what Nick was saying, like this like back and forth of like moving away and then coming back and then moving away and then coming back. I definitely felt that, and I think I saw that a little bit in others as well. Like Camelia, I think with the spoon, I felt like maybe you had that a little bit as far as like, what else do I say about a spoon? It's a spoon. And but but you were still like present during it. So yeah, it was a fun exercise, and my heart has gone down since then. So I guess I'm pretty chill at this point.
Can I pipe up? Yeah, I echo that. I think probably every single one of us at some point had that same thought Darius was describing, of like, oh shit, what do I say next? And like it's like you think ahead, even though you're not quite there yet. It's like you feel it coming. And so then it really makes it worse kind of, because you're trying to finish what you're saying while simultaneously thinking of the next thing. And it was like, no, I can't keep up with this. And it gets super stressful. So I wanted to share actually, that was super fun for me. It didn't stress me out at all. I just thought it was fun. Like, okay, what the fuck am I going to say about this stupid thing? Like, super fun. But I want to share with that it was fun, but it was also fun for me to be like, oh, this isn't scary or stressful anymore. Coming like as a person who used to be literally like paralyzed by social anxiety, like to the fact where like I would wear a sweatshirt because I would have sweat stains on my armpits, on my t-shirt on a daily basis. And so I would prefer to put a sweatshirt on and sweat more than like for people to see the sweat that I had caused by social anxiety. Yeah. So that level of just paralyzed by people speaking to me. So I share that just to say where I am now, it's like, oh yeah, that was pretty fun. Like, damn, like we've mastered a lot of social anxiety, haven't we? But coming from a place of, I've also experienced that paralyzing fear of like, I have to speak in front of people. No, no, I don't want people to hear my voice. And so I don't know, having experienced both ends of the spectrum, it's fun to be at a point where it's like, yeah, it's okay. Like no one is going to think you're stupid more than you think you are. Like no one's thinking about it as much as you are. No one is. Everyone's just seeing like what the fuck you're going to come up with. And then two things I guess I'll share that have helped a lot is one, Giannis said, like, just speak slowly. There's no rush. It's not about filling 2 minutes. It's about you get 2 minutes. What do you want to do with them? And then the second, this is super specific, but that's helped me a lot, is like, it's okay to pause when your thought runs out. So you're not doing that simultaneous thinking of like, here's this thought, what's next? Like, just run that thought out. And if you pause, no one's going to be like, oh, this person's dumb, they don't know what to say next. It's like, no, you're just taking a breath, because you have to breathe while you speak also. And collecting your next thought. So becoming comfortable with pauses and not feeling that need to like run. Easier said than done, but it's hugely helpful when you're trying to like cope with those kind of multiple thought streams at the same time. But yeah, it was fun. I don't know. We should do more of these.
Oh, thanks for sharing that, Chloe. I think the most challenging part for me was actually the keeping the perfectionism on board, or like at bay, better to say, because I have like this, I struggle like a lot with like being spontaneous. Like it doesn't really matter what it is. I need time to prepare my thoughts, to prepare my body, to prepare my emotions. I just need time. And so this is actually an exercise that really challenges me on that level. I didn't feel like really anxious. It felt like actually pretty fun, I guess. But yeah, letting this, it's not here to like be perfect. It's not like I make like a presentation, like a professional presentation, like for, I don't know, getting investors on board for my linen clothing, whatever line. So yeah, but it's like, it's always like, it's in the background of, I need to make this professional and whatever professional means. But yeah, it's like, damn. Yeah, that was challenging.
I completely get that, because I felt as soon as you said we have to talk about it, I was just like, okay, what's my theme? Where am I taking? What's my objective? What's my strategy? I need to have my tactics. Like, I need to have some examples. Like, literally, this is what I do as my job as well. And I'm going exactly through the same motions now with the two projects, where they're just like, okay, so what should we do? I'm like, okay, this is what it needs to look like. And if it doesn't look like that, it's wrong. So it was really tough to just freestyle it without any prep. And I could feel it physically. My voice was shaking at one point, and that kind of threw me off. And I could feel like I used to have sweat patches, but also blotches on my skin, like red everywhere. It's calmed down a little bit, but I could feel it rising, and already like that itself, I was like, oh my gosh, it's happening. And then luckily the star came up, and that saved me. The 2 minutes were over, but it felt like an ordeal.
For me, it was the very opposite. I try not to be professional and to say something very silly, because for me the exercise was non-stop talking about something. And yes, about what Chloe said, to allow yourself to pause, or in my case, to say out loud, okay, now I don't know what to talk about. To be silly and to just let it go to the task, but not really try to be professional, because just rises more my anxiety, because I used to work with presentations and stuff like this, and I don't want to do that. And I'm studying now, give me a lot of anxiety when I have to present something, and it's in German. I cannot speak German. I said that before, and I don't want to. Whenever I have to do a presentation or something like this, so I try to be as silly and as I can when I talk, so I don't think too much. But even though it gives me anxiety.
Yeah, these are awesome. There are a few things that came up for me, both myself and watching some. Like, man, it's almost like a, what would you call it? Almost like a yardstick or a measuring tool. You can actually like gauge your own progress and comfort by just coming back to this exercise like month after month or year after year, seeing how straightforward it is. A few things I spotted and have been called out myself before. I mean, this is actually recorded. It might be cool to do these recording yourself too. Like, one of the things is you can almost notice how you adjust the way you speak. Like, one of the ideas for this was, you're the foremost expert in the world on this. And I find it unlikely that the foremost expert would say something like, oh, if I'm right on this, or like, yeah, I think that. And it's like, yeah, you can cut that out. Because like, if someone's asking you about your own life, you are literally the world's foremost expert on your own life. And when you hear someone just being like, yeah, well, I think I did it this way. It's like, well, I mean, did you or did you not, bro? Like, you can actually just cultivate your own language. I'm glad this came up separately. Pausing is a huge one. It's actually one of my go-to ways to kind of check in with someone as I'm talking to them. It's basically like, how long has it been since you last stopped speaking? Because actually, a lot of the time, I think people revert to either one of the two extremes. They either shut down entirely and will go a long time without saying anything, or they will not stop talking, right? Because it's just like, I just gotta keep going until we reach the end. And it's like, well, there's no set end to this conversation, man. So yeah, taking time to breathe and pause is huge. Oh, the other one that's big is, you can also ask people questions, right? You could actually be like, oh, Chloe, have you ever used a spoon before? What's your experience with spoons like? A silly example, but you get the point. It's not just something in real world conversation. You're not doing a monologue on a stage, right? You can actually involve the world. And so I want to weave this into a kind of shame and social anxiety kickoff. And the practice for me brings out two things. I think on one hand, and we'll relate this to talking about yourself or just how you relate to yourself. I think people can struggle with, and actually a lot of the shares here kind of highlighted it. You kind of struggle with one of two things with this exercise. One is you struggle with actually saying the thing, just like public presentation. I think that relates far more to social anxiety than shame. The second half of the thing that you could struggle with might actually be coming up with stuff to say. It's not that saying it is necessarily hard. It's actually just like picking like what is useful to say about this thing. And if you changed it from some random object to can you talk to about yourself for 2 minutes? Right. On one hand, it can be hard to just say it, which is a social anxiety thing. The other part is this is the part of it that I fall into a lot, which is like I just don't think anything about my life is worth saying to people. And it's like that is just fundamentally not true. You can make a goddamn spoon sound exciting. You can most certainly make the richness of several decades of your life sound interesting. And yeah, that even just the belief of like, I don't have anything. There's nothing that people would want to say. I would argue at least that is based more in the shame camp. And so there's something about these two that like weave themselves together quite directly. Not exactly sure how I pull a question out of that, but yeah, I kind of want to open this back up to maybe the most direct question is not that this has to be a binary choice, but between the two of shame or social anxiety, is there one that you feel most conflicted with? I guess that might be the way to say it. Like, is there one of those two that is obvious to you, which one you would like to work on more this month? For me, I'll start. Shame is by far the most present one for me because I've been in enough I've been forced to just talk and do workshops enough that it's not overly scary for me. But even now, I will very rarely share stuff about my own life. Right? I've been called out by many people for many years on that, and it's still something I'm not very good at. The whole story of like, yeah, well, who cares about what I have to say? Or like, yeah, but it's about the ideas, just blah, blah, blah. So shame is definitely more of the obstacle for me. And yeah, if anyone wants to chime in, just raise your hand on mute.
Yeah, I agree. Shame's more present for me than social anxiety. I feel like, good. Yeah, I feel like we should do the talk about yourself for 2 minutes as an activity. That'd be sick. Also, I want to hear everyone talk about themselves for 2 minutes, just because that would be really cool. I thought social anxiety was my focus, but yeah, just after that one activity, realizing like, no, social anxiety is pretty cool. In fact, I feel like I have a lot to say about it, having undergone my own like super 180 transformation with it. So social anxiety, I think, is more interesting to me, but shame, I think, is definitely more real. And I'm not even clear what all that encompasses, because it feels like a very broad topic. I guess thinking about it in relation to social anxiety, it's more maybe the opposite of confidence in yourself and in what you have to share is valuable. But I think I'm at this point more interested in delving into that and understanding more like what that even means. Yeah, because still a lot of confusion around past stories, I guess, and lived experiences with shame and guilt, and like what it actually means now. Yeah, super. Yeah, there's a lot to discover there.
Yeah, likewise. I was thinking, definitely, I think it's kind of more shame at this point. Just kind of thinking about it, and hopefully the thoughts I was finding with myself, some of the emotions which I'm only now starting to understand. Like in the moment, there's the physiological thing, but I didn't quite understand it. Now I feel like I understand why I was having that a little bit more. And there's like the sense of, as I was talking about the battery, I noticed I was focusing on projecting attributes of the battery as opposed to projecting my relationship with the battery. And so that's where I was seeing, that's where that shame was coming up. I was like, you know what? I don't want to talk about my relationship with this battery. So I'm just going to talk about all the facts about batteries that have nothing to do with me. So I didn't notice that in the moment, but that's what I'm kind of like reflecting. So it's almost like there's like shame, which is something I won't dive into in this particular response, but yeah, like there is shame about my own relationship with the battery, like, and I'm not quite sure why that is, but I don't know, something I can, I guess, kind of explore. Yeah, there's definitely like this feeling of, like, am I going to say the right thing? Is it, oh, right. Like, I think like something that stood out to me that was helpful for me understanding that was when Jana was talking about the class aspect of mobile phones and how like certain like classes of people are known for having like a phone. That to me reminded me, I guess, of a little bit of shame, as far as like there is shame in like if you ever have been in that class that didn't have a cell phone. Like I felt like as I heard that, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. Like I remember feeling that. So there was a little bit of shame there. And I could see that feeling coming up and being like, yeah, no, I'm not going to talk about my relationship with cell phones. I'm just going to talk about all the facts about how phones work and how their operating system. So yeah, that's just like another way to phrase it. But there is that relational part, like, you know, like what is the actual like intimate relationship with the cell phone? You know, that's much deeper than, well, and just how I'm framing it, it's much deeper than, you know, like the operating system of the phone. So.
I think it's also the part most people want to hear about too. Like that's what makes it interesting. Like, cool, there are all these facts. Like, what about you in the phone? What about you in the mate cup? Like, what about you in the thing? Like, I mean, we're human. I think that's what we're mostly interested with. And then the facts and all of that come afterwards. But yeah, that relationship is not only difficult to talk about due to shame, but like probably the most valuable.
Yeah, there's something like, tell me something I can't Google. Like, bro, I'll find out about fucking details of batteries if I want to, bro. Like, I can't Google your relationship to it. Can't Google how you feel about it. Yeah, damn, feel personally attacked by that one. Yeah, there's something else about this exercise, and I mean, we will definitely do like personal version of it at some point, but one of the framings of this activity I like, if you try to do the 2 minutes about yourself, is again noticing, like, is it any more difficult to talk about for 2 minutes the things that make you awesome as it is to talk about the spoon? Like, in theory, you should be able to talk about the shit that makes you awesome just as easy as you could talk about where spoons get manufactured. Like, it's just a fact of reality. Like, you got awesome shit about you and it exists in the world and you can go talk about it. But again, we're confronted, and I mean, we will be confronted with like, oh, is it harder to talk about why I'm awesome than it is to talk about batteries? And like, why? No one gives a fuck about batteries. I care about how awesome you are. But yeah, there's still something there. And actually in a few of the shares, there's almost this open question. I think I might say yes. It's like, I wonder if shame is like the, maybe not the seed, but like the precursor to social anxiety. Like, why would you be anxious if you just didn't feel, or said a different way, if you were super well rooted in your own just value and power and beauty, not to extremes of like narcissism and shit, but if you're just like, yeah, I'm a human, I'm doing it, pretty awesome. Why would you be anxious to talk about that or just be in public? Period. Yeah. So again, that's why this month has both of these kind of themed together, because they're almost in the internal and external demonstrations of the same thing. Just like, I don't know. I don't think I'm on the same level as other people. No one would find this interesting. I can't do it. It's not going to be good enough. Like, it's all just the same kind of manifestation. One of the other things I wanted to point to here is, I mean, Chloe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's a very good example here, which is, I mean, for several years, you've been running classes with random strangers in person and online. And actually just that like repetition of like, okay, I got to talk. Like, I just got to speak to people again, gets you in that space of just like deconditioning the response, the like contraction tension response. It's like, well, okay, we're doing this again. It's actually my entire relationship with sessions like this as well, because it's like, oh, okay, cool, we're gonna go do a session now. At the beginning it was like, fuck no, I'll do not a chance. Or like the relationship with the red recording light, where it's like, oh my god, like I need a second take. I need a third take. I need a fourth take. And now it's just like, okay, good. It's recording. Like, I haven't forgotten to push the button. Like a huge flip in that, yeah, actually just, I mean, it's not the entire thing, but I think it's easy to actually overlook how much of it is just time in the chair. Like, just, I'm going to go talk to 5 people. I'm going to go talk to 5 people again. I'm going to go introduce myself. I'm literally going to go talk to someone random about myself for 2 minutes and just get it out of my system. There's something there. And I have every intention of weaving that into some of the kind of between call challenges as we go through this month. Like, just really, I mean, I see it as almost a feedback cycle, right? Put yourself in a space that brings up some sort of tension or not, or discomfort, and then really just get fucking clear on investigating why the heck that thing is coming up. See if there's something you can do to deal with it and test it again. Yeah, Chloe.
Oh, I I feel like I have so much to say about this topic. Like, it's like, yeah, so much. So cut me off if I'm kind of hijacking it or talking way too much. But I guess there are 2 things I want to share. One is, a little bit of my personal experience. And then 2 is something I've been reading. I think I mentioned this book last week. I'm going to mention it a lot because I'm reading the book called The Courage to Be Dyslexic right now. And it's just phenomenal with this whole, I mean, it's not necessarily oriented towards social anxiety, but everything it speaks to social anxiety. So just super excellent book. So the first thing is, I went through my own personal trial by fire, really, of diving into uncomfortable social situations. So again, it doesn't seem like it now. Like, even talking about it, people look at me like, oh yeah, like that's not fucking true. There's no way. Like, no, really, just paralyzed by speaking to people. Like, if I had to do this 2-minute activity 10 years ago, there is no fucking way. But when I was 21, I was a missionary for a church I used to belong to. And that meant literally knocking on strangers' doors and being like, do you want to talk about Jesus? So let me tell you, like, if you want to find a crazy way to overcome social anxiety, something to that level, we'll do it, because you have literally no other choice but to be like, yep, I'm a fucking weirdo right now. Like, people are looking at me like I'm weird. I have a badge that says I'm weird, and I have to talk to strangers about how weird I am. I mean, it's just another whole level of of being weird, being uncomfortable, and then just kind of being like, yeah, I'm weird. I'm just gonna have to get used to people looking at me like I'm weird. All that to say, don't go out and serve religious missions, but go out and talk to people about how weird you are and see where it gets you. Like, because once you're okay with being the weird one, like, everything else kind of falls apart. It's just like, there's nothing I can do or say to make myself seem normal right now. So I'm just gonna be honest and be true to what I am. And that's all I can do. Right. And anyway, all that to say, the feeling of being the odd one out and being weird became normal, maybe even to an extent where it was too far. And it's like, no, we need to bring it back. But all that to say, yeah, getting used to, A, you're not as weird as you think you are. And B, it's okay if you are, because people are going to walk away from that conversation like, yeah, I just like met this really weird person and it's going to stick with them forever. And that's going to be kind of cool. Like, be that random girl on the subway that talked to a stranger, and then that stranger's going to go off and be like, yeah, this random girl just like started talking to me. It was kind of weird, but it changed my day. Like, that day now stands out from the rest of them. Like, be that weird one. It's kind of cool. I'll leave that there because I could keep going on that for hours. And then the second comment I wanted to make is about, and this comes from, again, this book, The Courage to Be Disliked, that I've recently discovered. And they talk about the difference between vertical relationships and horizontal interpersonal relationships. And I think, to an extent, we all have been introduced to society in a vertical relationship spectrum, right? Of even like, parent knows more than child, teacher knows more than student. That girl or that boy is better in class than I am. And like, there's just always this kind of underlying hierarchy, right? And I think it affects our shame, like what we were just talking about, or lack thereof, in how we deal with other people. Because there's always, at least for me, it's been this way, there's always kind of this little thought in the back of our heads is like, oh, this person's better than me, so now I have to like be on my best behavior. Like, oh yeah, I don't care what that person thinks about me, so it's fine, I can do whatever I want. And like, we're kind of just constantly measuring up to other people. Again, I don't want to speak for everyone, but in general, I think a lot of us do that, right? Where it's, oh yeah, I need to kind of be more careful because I judge this person to be on a higher level than I am, in whatever that looks like, right? Whether it's money, monetary success, whether it's, I think they're cooler than me and I feel like I need to be as cool as I can so that they think I'm cool, or expert level, right? And it's just this kind of constant vertical measuring up of like, where do I fall in place with this group of people or this person I'm interacting with? And anyway, so the whole idea of the book is that if we can stop measuring up in that vertical interpersonal relationship idea and look at everything as horizontal, it opens space up to have a lot healthier relationships, to reduce anxiety, which is kind of what, I forget who, I think either Evie or Darius is speaking about, like this is just who I am, like just accepting yourself, accepting who they are, and saying there is no better or worse or superior or inferior. It's just, hey, I'm this human doing this thing over here, you're this human doing that thing over there, and meeting other humans on that kind of same level just eliminates a lot of the anxiety, because there's nothing to be nervous about, right? This is who I am, I'm presenting myself. And I think about that, or an example that I thought of was like, how would you interact with like a super famous person, like a celebrity? Would you feel like you could just talk to them, right, on a level and be like, yeah, you're a super cool human doing that thing over there. Cool. This is who I am doing this thing over here. And like feeling like that's equal despite the level of fame and money that they have. Be cool if there was a way to put that into practice, but at least mentally kind of imagining that scenario and being like, yeah, can I just talk to someone like that and feel okay as myself? It's a horizontal scope, horizontal thing. So that's something that's been on my mind lately. And I'm not sure the best way to make that happen or to make that change. But I think the idea is really interesting and valuable of, yeah, I don't need to be, also it's exhausting, right? I don't need to be constantly like measuring myself against other people. Like, oh, where do I fall? What is this person? Like, this is a super successful, like, just, yeah, you're a human over there. I'm a human over here. Like a baker who makes really tasty pastries is just as important to me as like someone who helps me manage my money, for example. And anyway, I'll cut it off there, but yeah, horizontal interpersonal relationships. It's a whole new concept that I think is worth diving into.
Need like a guest session on that. Damn. Yeah, something with that is you almost always compare vertically on a very singular aspect of life, right? You very rarely do it for the whole person, right? Yeah, I've actually caught myself in that a few times past few weeks online of like you just have such a small window into people's lives that it's entirely silly to actually compare based on that sliver that you see. I had a very confronting one a few weeks ago where there was this woman working on this project that I follow on Twitter, and I was like, damn, that's sick, like really cool. And then literally like last week she got fucking hit by a car. I was like, oh, never mind, I don't want to trade places anymore. It's like you just have no idea what the fuck is going on. Or like, yeah. That would be a cool exercise. We gotta turn that into something. Yeah, with the time we have, I mean, there's still a few minutes of like, I'd love to hear which feels most relevant for the rest of the crew here. Is it a social anxiety thing? Is it a shame thing? Is it a mix of both? Like, where's the crew at so that we can track this the next few weeks together?
I think I would say social anxiety. And with our talk now, I'm thinking about shame and guilty and concepts of all together. They come together, but I'll be okay talking about myself. Not that I'm the most awesome person, but I like who I am. I'm comfortable with my body. But I don't know if this the environment maybe or who I'm talking to that changes this perspective. Maybe, I don't know, we are talking here, I'm feeling okay, I'm feeling comfortable, but not in a university, not in a job interview, not all of job interviews, but some. I don't know, changes from person to person, and I don't know what triggers. So yeah, in terms of shame, I think I'm okay. Guilty, no, and anxiety, it's worse. Yeah.
Be really cool to see if we can find one or wherever those triggers actually are, tracking what switches that feeling. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, social anxiety for me, for sure. They're definitely very, very related. Yeah, if not like you said, different sides of the same coin. I think a good example is like eye contact. When you struggle to hold eye contact with someone, it's like, I think social anxiety in itself is always a kind of defense mechanism. You're like trying to stop people from seeing who you are because you think there's something essentially wrong with that. And that just makes for, awkward conversation because you're not focusing on the present moment and just being with what is. You're like constantly like, it's like trying to manipulate the situation so that your imaginary, usually flaws, don't get seen. Yeah, I could also speak on this topic for hours. Social anxiety has been also like one of the most crippling things for me. I remember when I wrote the application to the Ascent, which was the first program that I did with High Existence, and they said like, what is the thing that you want to work on the most? And I had in like capital letters like social fucking anxiety. So it was like the big thing. And it's kind of come in waves. It's always come in waves. Like I've never liked to identify as a socially anxious person because it's like sometimes I'm like the fucking king, you know, like I don't give a fuck. But then there's other times in my life where it's like those defense mechanisms really just are like maximized, and it seems like I can't control them, and it makes for very uncomfortable interactions, and it's always felt beyond my control. Like it's not like I'm making this decision to be socially anxious right now. It's just like this thing that's happening. And so I've always felt like the deeper levels of healing that I do with like plant medicine and more like subconscious healing modalities, they're like working at the root of this issue. And I've had experiences where like after working with like ayahuasca, I just felt like totally relieved of these mechanisms that make me need to defend myself, and just totally like open and like, wow, like what was I even doing in the first place? Like I'm just here now. But yeah, then they come back. So it's like figuring out how to do the work long term. And at the moment, this is coming at a perfect time because I've just come out of quite a dark space of like a lot of anxiety. To be like completely open, I've had a few experiences on psychedelics at festivals where my social anxiety has gone like through the roof, and I really thought that I broke my brain. And that happened in like November, and I'm kind of coming out of, well, now I'm pretty much out of it, but just being coming out of it and now feeling like really good, really strong, but lots of like kinks still to iron out, and I'm about to go traveling. So the plan is to be interacting with lots of new people every single day, and I have been doing that mostly now. So hopefully it's on its way out for good. I feel like it is, and this is coming at a good time for me. Yeah.
Oh, the classic moment on psychedelics when you're like, oh, I did it now. We're done. Game over. Awesome. I mean, maybe this week, maybe even today after this, it could be really powerful for everyone to, write a page to yourself of like, this is what I'm working on. Thank you for the help that you've given me so far. I think our relationship is coming to a close. And like, let's set an intention to release some of this stuff. And we'll use the next few weeks and conversations in between to like, I think notice where it still has hooks, develop some practices around addressing them, and see where we get over the next few weeks. I think the starting place is, if anyone is willing, I would love to see a few more. You could write it for sure. You could write it in the community spaces. You could take a video. If anyone wants to riff on themselves or another object to start practicing, that's what the space is for. I might do a take or two. I think that's largely it on my end. Does anyone have anything they want to sign off on? Anything that hasn't been said yet?
How would you even define social anxiety? It's interesting because I know for myself, I just love being by myself. And I was growing from I hate all humans basically to I very consciously choose with whom I spend my time with. But I still don't enjoy like large masses of humans around me.
Yeah, Darius, if you have an answer, let's go.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, and not a definitive answer, but I think it kind of has helped me understand that is the idea of social attachment theory. So like if you can figure out what type of attachment style you tend to gravitate towards, I think that can tell you a lot about how your anxiety manifests. Because like really quickly, like someone who has like an anxious attachment anxiety, but someone who has an avoidant attachment is going to get anxious for different, like they're going to be anxious about getting close to people, right? And so they're going to like move away. But someone with an anxious attachment is going to like stay connected, but just not be sure about it. So they're both forms of anxiety, but they show up a little bit different. Um, Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, I mean, this is a wicked question. I mean, I guess my basic answer would be uh, unconditional anxiety with people outside of yourself. Unconditional being like it literally doesn't matter if you're at your own home with another person, or you're at a coffee shop with three people, or you're at a party with 200. It's just unconditional base layer anxiety. I agree with you, Jessica. I've definitely had similar stages in my life of like, I don't necessarily, I don't think the preference or the enjoyment of spending time by yourself necessarily indicates social anxiety. I think having social anxiety can change your preference to how often you want to spend time with people, but I don't think they go hand in hand. It's basically like, yeah, I think there's almost always situations where you might get a little anxious. Question is like, can you control it? Period. Or is it like acute? Like, I think there's a huge difference, yeah, between something like you have to get on stage in front of 50 people and talk and you're a little anxious versus like, I literally am just anxious because I'm in public. I'm literally just anxious. I don't even have a choice in the matter. That's what I would, at least for the purposes of like this month, probably peg for social anxiety. Just like literally uncontrollable. Not that it's out of control, but it's the fact that you don't really have an on or off switch in any level of social interaction. That's a wicked question. That might be another good thing for everyone to like sit and write with. Like, what the fuck is social anxiety to you? What is shame to you? Both of those are really good.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask because I feel with social anxiety, I can imagine what that is, and I feel like I've read about it. But when it comes to shame, it's like with trauma. Like until I've started learning about it, I didn't know it could happen to me. So I don't know what I don't know at this stage. So when you were asking, is it more social anxiety or is it shame? I don't know. I've got no clue. So I don't even know how I would define shame at this point. So hopefully that will come through as we go through these sessions.
I mean, literally, that's why we have themes like this, right? Space to explore it. Yeah, I mean, I think actually this is a fantastic starting point. I think both. Can you try to define what they mean for you? Can you speak to how they exist in your life right now? Again, there's no right or wrong answers. No one here is asking for your PhD take on the origins of shame and human psychology, but yeah, it's helpful to actually like have a working definition that we can go forward with. It should be super cool to touch on this next week. Like come back with some notes, and see where everyone lands, because that would be the differences. If people come up with differences in the definitions, would be really interesting. Yeah. So cool. We'll kind of save that as a preview for next week. Yeah, thank you, Jessica. That was wicked. Yeah, I mean, anyone have anything they want to sign off with? I feel pretty complete. I think we've got some homework. I think we've got some activities coming down. And again, maybe this is the last thing. Re-invoking the like, yeah, going down this path can certainly bring up a whole bunch of shit, right? Shame can take you far back into the past. It can take you to very core wounds. Social anxiety has, almost by its nature, putting you in uncomfortable situations. So, I mean, kind of honor where you're at, go slowly if going slowly is needed, ask for support if you feel like that would be helpful or useful or wanted. But don't let that stop you, because the other side of this could be extremely beautiful.